virtual Vive sanity is what we're hoping for.
Hello, hello. How are you all doing, virtual fanatics? You good? Absolutely delightful to see you today. Thanks for popping by. I've got a couple of really nice games for you. Today we're going to play Final Approach, which is a game where you sort of fly aeroplanes through the air and make them land or crash into each other as you wish. Little itty bitty planes that big and you're the hand of God guiding them. Then the other game we're going to play is Moss, which I think is one of the best games that virtual reality can offer, because for Quill, the little mouse that you're controlling, moving around in the sort of 3D world in front of you, is absolutely beautiful. The way she's been rendered, the way she moves, the way she does her sword fights. Anyway, enough chat. I reckon that we should just get stuck straight in. My purpose, my raison d'etre, is to pass on to you from one beginner, relative newbie to another, some of the tips and tricks that help you stop the sort of VR malfunctioning, sort of a lot of the frequently asked questions kind of things will feature every now and again, but mainly to sort of point out my top 5 tips that help you feel more immersed in the experience. So, number 1 and number 2 are related to fluid intake, and basically you don't want to be having to pop the goggles off for too long to go and mess around in the real world before you dip back into the virtual reality universe that you happen to be in, because it kind of breaks the illusion. You can dip out and then your mind's elsewhere and then put it back on again. Brilliant. So in order to achieve that, it's all about having to hand a large quantity of water just at arm's reach, so you don't have to break the illusion for too long. VR is thirsty work. Number 2, as every Brit will tell you, it's important to have a nice cup of tea ready. You should make sure you boil the kettle first. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. Number 3 is all about getting rid of that fluid in a way that doesn't fog up your lenses. So wear loose-fitting clothing, because you're going to be moving around a lot if you're using the HTC Vive, where you can actually move around a lot in space. I usually have a 3 meter by 3 meter plate area, but because you're moving around a lot, you're going to sweat, and you want to be sweating from these parts of your body, not from your FOD, because if it goes from your forehead down into the sponge that holds the head-mounted display onto your face, it basically heats up, turns to steam, fogs up your lenses, which ruins everything. So it's all about not breaking that illusion, staying in VR. If you happen to have a fan to hand, have it shooting straight across the play area and try and avoid having it swinging around, because that's basically might trick you into thinking someone's come into the room, and you might mistake it for a draft of air of someone coming into your space, which is of course important, because if you're about to slash a zombie's head off, you want to be sure that you don't accidentally harm someone in the real world. Number 4, I did a PhD in multisensory integration, how the brain integrates visual and auditory information in such a way as to create our sense of the world around us. It's all about perception and how you merge different senses together. So off the back of that, I just want to pass on one important point. This is number 4. Don't forget your cerebellum. All right? Easily overlooked. It's hidden. It just hangs off the back of your brain like that. There are more cells in this little part of your brain, the cerebellum, than in the whole massive part of the cortex that you normally associate with being the brain put together. So all of this huge territory has fewer neurons in it, has less computational power, if you like, than just this tiny little brain that hangs off the back of your head. And if you want to use your cerebellum to enhance your virtual reality experience, all you have to do is move around. The more you move around in space, the more you send your brain messages about your movements in space, your acceleration sideways, any tilting or rocking of your head in 3 dimensions, changing perspective like that. It tells your visual and auditory system what's about to happen next in your senses that you've caused, as opposed to what's going on in the outside world. You constantly have to subtract the changes in the visual field, the changes in the sound that are induced by your movements in space in order to accurately understand what's going on there in the outside world. Now you can use this to your advantage in virtual reality by, rather than standing in one place, just teleporting around. You still feel like you're moving around in the VR world, but you're not actually moving in the real world. If you're more dynamic in the real world, it will increase your sense of really being in that virtual world. And that's what we're here to do, right? Number 5, virtual reality is absolutely astoundingly, brilliantly wonderful. And therefore, we are likely, as a human race, to spend way too much time in virtual reality worlds. If you look at our use of smartphones, it's ridiculous. Everyone these days is even if they've got a neck ache, even if it's not actually making them happy, they'll still do it. Anyway, these silly people should think, am I overusing it, right? And if they're overusing it and it's making them miserable, they should use it less. But very few get that far. So before any of this happens to us in virtual reality, I'm sure there are some people addicted to it. Certainly I've met a few who play like 4 hours every day, but we haven't heard about them in the newspapers and magazines having terrible things happen in their real lives yet. Before that happens, point number 5, set yourself some kind of time limit. I choose an hour because as a neuroscientist, I feel like 1 hour every other day, it's unlikely to lead to addiction. In between those sessions, I do fantasize an awful lot about things I've done in the past in virtual reality and things I'd like to do next. And without further ado, we're going to indulge in 2 of my recent fantasies, which are Moss and Final Approach. With Moss, it occurred to me that I was having trouble jumping over these brambles, and I thought, I haven't once in the first maybe hour, 2 hours of gameplay used my sword in a meaningful way. I've gone but I haven't actually had to use it against the foe. And now I've realised maybe it's not going to be another mousy foe or an animal foe. It might just be a tool that I can use to get over that particular hurdle. And I love Moss because you're like a godlike character, and you cooperate. You help this little mouse on its magical journey. And the mouse is called Quill, and you can kind of control her hopping up onto cliffs and edging along cliffs, and she's got a sword. So we're going to see if yesterday's eureka moment, when I wasn't playing VR, works in the real virtual reality world. Ooh, the real virtual reality world. That's too confusing. And Final Approach is funny because the first time I played it, you're like an air traffic controller. Again, maybe I've got a god complex. Your role is essentially to be a god and guide aeroplanes to land safely, or make sure it gets to the terminal, drops off the passengers, make sure they fuel up, make sure if anyone falls in the water, you use the helicopter to go and pick them up, all this kind of stuff. I found it really hectic and actually not that enjoyable the first time I played it. However, I continued, and after I had a really fun experience last time round, I just want to go back. I keep thinking about it. I've got about 20 games that I'm exploring over a period of many, many weeks, but I keep wanting to go back to these 2, which is a good sign. It used to happen for me with Rec Room, for example, but then they started allowing people to play Rec Room not using a VR kit, and I don't care, I'm agnostic whether people use Oculus or HTC Vive or any other VR kit, fine, each to their own. But for people to be gaming with a mouse and a keyboard, they're not in 3D virtual reality. And so how can they, I was playing disc golf with someone and they said they were on a PC. I'm like, but we're not both going to be throwing, doing a throwing action. The person on the PC game is going to be, I don't know, like waggling the joystick and hitting a button. I don't know, I don't care. The point is, you shouldn't have non-VR people in VR worlds, because otherwise you're not on a level playing field. You're not competing fairly. You could argue that between different VR kits, some people have an advantage over another. But, let's just stop at PC people, who aren't in a virtual reality world. Get out of it, man. So I don't go back to Rec Room. I go back about 10% as much as I used to before they started letting PC gamers in. Back when it was a world of VR people only, it was a wonderful utopia that I couldn't get enough of because there's really good gameplay and a social element where you meet people from all over the world, you hang out, you talk nonsense, and you commune, you cooperate, you get a sense of sort of tribal cooperation, sometimes warfare, if you're playing laser tag and you can kind of coordinate and bring each other back to life, but no more. Until the PC gamers are banished from that realm, I, for one, am staying away. Right, I always start I set up the room fresh each time because I hate having problems, glitches in the VR world. Quite often the glitches are caused by the fact that these two base stations need to be looking at each other. And quite often, because I'm trying to catch a bigger space than you're strictly allowed to, sometimes when I stand in the middle of the room, I can't see B on one of them and I can't see C on the others because it's looking sort of slightly away. I've realised that is a huge error. Optical sync is really important for everything to work well. Right, shut up. Oh yeah, did you notice that this spells out hello? I bet you didn't. I had to work really hard on that and I didn't even notice. My big criticism of PlayStation VR is how often, when it's tracking you from one vantage point rather than two, it just gets the depth wrong, and it's so irritating. My favourite anecdote is that my brother once spent 15 minutes trying to use a virtual carrot to get a virtual apple out of a fridge in Rick and Morty. Because the depth thing wasn't right. We couldn't reach into the fridge to get it. The tracker just couldn't handle it. Right, don't you dare forget your back to front headphones. And these earphones that come with the HTC Vive, unless you're a pro owner, they need to point forwards, not backwards. So that is the wrong way round. They need to be like that. And thereby you can realise that ear holes on a human point forwards a little bit, which I guess makes sense, because otherwise you'd be going along and stops things getting in your ears, because we tend to move forwards. That actually makes sense. If we were backward moving creatures, our ear holes would probably be oriented the other way. Morning has broken like the first morning. We've got enough legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. Ooh. Sweet. Right, final approach. Tea time. That's not where the tea is. Have you boiled now? Yeah. Okay. Good thing about coming out for tea is I can check you can see everything. Oh, maybe I can make it full screen. Today we're on lemon and ginger. Less babble, more gameplay. Off we go. Right, where's that menu thing? There's the menu thing. Why do I always have my hands the wrong way around? Phaser lock, PHCK. I wonder if one of the lads or lasses who created this is called like Phil Hammond and the other one's called Charlie Klein. I'm sure someone knows, I do not. Yeah, this is Trevor McDonald, ready?
Got the hang of using
Yeah,
those
there you go.
gloves?
Brush work.
Good. We're going to go back to Parrot Island and let you have a go at running things on your own.
Whoa. Drone test day was awesome. 7. Oh my god, it's so good! If you want to see what that is, look at the last one. It was so much fun, I can't tell you. So now we're going back to Metro City Airport. This is the one that stressed me out. But I enjoyed my time at sea with the American Navy so much. But,
Good you had some trouble out on the high seas.
no, it was
Well,
fine.
this would cheer you up. The airport's busy. Well, it always cheers me up. Anyway, we need you to come in and lend a hand.
Okay, I'm gonna land you people this side. Okay.
Make sure all seats are in the upright position and restart your plane before we take off.
I hope you don't crash. Okay? I'll move you out of the way. Long way around.
On behalf of the flight crew, thank you for flying with us and have a pleasant stay.
Right, who else needs to land? Everyone good, everyone good? No troubles, no troubles?
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take these seats. On behalf of the flight crew, thank you for flying with us and have a pleasant stay. Make sure all seats are in the upright position and trays are put away before we take off.
Make sure all seats are in the upright position and trays are put away before we take off.
Make sure all seats are in the upright position
Hey, wait.
and trays are put away before we take off.
Wait. We want to leave.
Please flight line is set up for departure.
No, you can go. Hopefully.
Turn on the seatbelt light.
Yeah, he will take off on time. Oh no! Oh no! Oh dear. Oh gosh! That was lucky! How lucky was that? That was ridiculous. Ambulance, stay away. Don't cause grief. Anyone? You want to go over there, don't you? Come on then, you little private monkey. Look at that, one takes off and one lands. That feels really awesome. So you lot all want to leave? Go on then. Oh Christ. Oh, get out of the way! Oh no! Oh dear. I feel bad for the loss of life, I really do. I'm trying to be a little bit too... Whoa. You're there, and you can...
We had a rash of stomach flu, so I guess you're going to have to handle that luggage down there.
Oh, great. Did something else blow up? How did that happen? I'll let you guys take off first. No, hang on. You go there. You go there. You come here. And then I'll deal with the luggage. Where's the luggage? Here. Okay, where's the luggage? Oh, it's behind you. LAX, LAX. Oh, Charles de Gaulle, Frankfurt. Okay.
Clear for departure.
Okay. Frankfurt, is that one? LAX. Frankfurt. LAX. Frankfurt. Frankfurt. Oh, stick fast, Frankfurt. LAX. Charles de Gaulle. Charles de Gaulle. LAX. Last one in? Or did it fall out? LAX. Okay, those don't matter anymore. Don't tell anyone. It's too hectic otherwise. I want to enjoy the experience. Okay, don't care about you anymore either. Charles de Gaulle, Charles de Gaulle. So that's going to France. Off you go to France. Hooray!
Let's get some engineers over there to fix it.
Oh, something broke. Hang on, what's going on with everyone? What are you doing? Oh, you want to go and get fixed. You want to take off. You want to land. Okay, just cross. You're safely took off. You're safely landing, don't crash. Engineers, how do I... Oh, the engineers are there, so I need a helicopter. Right. Where do you want to go? You want to take off? Gosh, there's a lot going on. So, you down with the winch, down on the right analog button, and then take these over to here. Okay, what else is going on? You probably want to land, you're always causing trouble. Okay, over there. How are you doing? Yeah? You good? Okay, you can drop them off. Why can't you just drop them off? Am I not low enough? Well, I just don't understand. This often happens. I'm not going to land anything, just take a shortcut. Over there. You're running out of juice. You're always impatient.
Thank you for flying with us, and have a pleasant day.
Come in here. Guessing.
Thank you and enjoy your flight.
Take off here. Alright, you're going to be alright? Okay. And down there. Yeah, everything alright? Okay, so you want to oh no. So you want to go there. Okay. What? I don't understand how do you drop them? Why did you suddenly start dropping out of the air? You okay? Yeah. You're not very happy at all. Right. You okay? Yeah, you're nearly out of fuel. You can go there. You can take off. You can take off on the big one. Come on. Okay, gosh, you need to. What about you? Do you need to do something? Right, you've taken off. Oh, Christ. What happened? That surely wasn't me. What? Why in the world did that happen? What's going on here? Ah, you'd imagine. Whoa, look at you. Did you lick the loops?
Virtual Vive sanity